All right. In other news, so this is a little less, a little less damning, but still problematic with regard to the Trump administration. Kellyanne Conway, on yesterday in an interview with Chris Matthews on MSNBC, Hardball, she attempted to hide, which is what the Trump administration and conservatives are doing. They're hiding behind President Obama because they're too cowardly to stand behind their own actions and their own bigotry, right? They wanted to let's make it clear at the top. This ban, his entire intention from the campaign through the election was to ban Muslims, his words. But he's a coward and his administration is a coward. So they have to find a way to hide behind President Obama. And this is what Kellyanne Conway was trying to do when she went on MSNBC Hardball with Chris Matthews. And on that interview, not only did she try to hide behind President Obama's responsibility to this ban, if any, but she used the Bowling Green massacre as an example of why the ban was necessary. Here's the problem. There's no such thing as the Bowling Green massacre. Let's listen in.
It's the 7 countries that were previously identified by President Obama as being high risk, as being states that either harbor, train, or export terrorism. These are nations very narrowly prescribed and also temporary.
Sure.
I bet there was very little coverage. I bet it's brand new information to people that President Obama had a 6-month ban on the Iraqi refugee program.
Yeah.
2 Iraqis came here to this country, were radicalized, and they were the masterminds behind the Bowling Green massacre. Most people don't know that because it didn't get covered.
Well, it didn't get covered, Kellyanne, because there's no such thing as the Bowling Green massacre. There's never been Bowling Green, Kentucky. There's never been a terrorist attack in the city of Bowling Green, Kentucky, ever. And so if there's never been a terrorist attack, there's never been a terrorist attack by any Iraqi refugees like she claims. So this is totally fabricated, totally made up. Now, to her credit, no, not really, because she doesn't. There's such a leap between what actually happened in Bowling Green and what she said that it's atrocious. We can't give her any credit. But there appeared to be, there was 2 Iraqi citizens, rather, living in Bowling Green who, according to CNN, were arrested in 2011 and eventually sentenced to federal prison for attempting to send weapons and money to al-Qaeda in Iraq for the purposes of killing U.S. soldiers. And this is according to a statement from the Justice Department. So in 2011, there were 2 Iraqi refugees, or Iraqi citizens, rather, living in Bowling Green who were trying to plan to send money or trying to find ways of sending money, and eventually did send money to al-Qaeda in Iraq to attack and kill U.S. soldiers. Because of that, President Obama did institute a 6-month review of their processes to ensure that people do not get through. And this is through without, that terrorists don't slip through the cracks. Now, this is why President Obama instituted this draconian extreme vetting that we already have. This is one of the reasons, right? It was already difficult to get into the United States. After 2011 and this incident, it became even more difficult. And yes, President Obama, but she's conflating 2 things. This was about a visa program that President Obama slowed down the process so that we can evaluate people even more stringently. She's referring to the 2015 omnibus bill, in which Republicans sponsored and Republican passed in the House and Republicans passed in the Senate. President Obama signed, because it's an omnibus bill. You're not going to not sign the omnibus bill. In that omnibus bill were the 7 states, the 7 nations that Donald Trump ultimately instituted a ban against. So there's a difference between even the story that she's trying to fabricate here about the Bowling Green massacre, which never happened, and then the omnibus bill that ultimately identified 7 states that we identified as worrisome or problematic or threatening states. Now, I don't know. I guess that's it. Actually, I was going to say more, but the fact of the matter is that she is intentionally conflating. And of course, she could have misspoke. But how do you mistake two terrorists who are or sponsors and funders, financiers of terrorism? We'll call them terrorists. That's fine. Who were caught and arrested, and their action and their crime was financing terrorism, which they're going to serve a long time in prison. How the hell do you mix that up with, I'm sorry, with a massacre? And the point is that they're trying to do everything they can to take the heat off of them about their Muslim ban, because their intentions were to institute a Muslim ban. They realized they couldn't, and so they did a blanket ban on everybody from these 7 nations. Right. And so now they've gotten the flack and the pushback from the American people. And so they're trying to hide behind President Obama and say, oh, President Obama did it, so it must be OK. And even in their attempt to hide behind President Obama, they have created this fake controversy, this fake massacre that never occurred, the Bowling Green Massacre. Always remember the Bowling Green Massacre that never happened.